Academically speaking, the single greatest reliable predictor of whether a student is college ready based on ACT information, other information, there's a single thing: if a kid can do it, they're most likely to succeed in college and career. Particularly in college, but it crosses the career line because ACT has workforce data well. Does anyone know?
Well, it used to be taking geometry in 10th grade.
Yep, not nearly as close as the data I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you something. I'll give. It's in English language arts. I'm asking. What is it?
Writing a paper.
No, sir. Good question. Good one, though. I'm just saying because it's interesting we don't know, isn't it? Wouldn't it seem that that would be the focus of our labor, that you would certainly know? That like, gosh, I'm going to kill that. Because if I get that, my kids are good. I mean, I can tell what kind of person you are. When I tell you this, it's going to be hell in your school because you're going to be like, you know what? I got this guy, he's funny looking, but he told me what all the kids... It is to read a complex text independently with confidence. Period. To read a complex text independently with confidence. Students on the ACT, based on that statistic alone, differentiate remarkably between college and career readiness. It's a graph you would love. Only on this stat do they accelerate towards college readiness, precisely being likely of getting a B and C in a credit-bearing course. Now, then you'd say to me, oh, Dave, everyone knows that, so all of K-12 education is a continual progress towards kids reading, not yet, kids reading a complex text independently. Not so, right? What actually do standards require? In K-5 education, typically state standards and state assessments focus 80% on literature. Even though the evidence from Don Hirsch and others is that building knowledge and building informational understanding, in early grades in particular, is essential for later disciplinary knowledge and for general knowledge required for later reading. So the core standards require a 50-50 split in which kindergarten through 5th grade now measures equally literary reading and informational reading, including science and history reading. They are quite radical in that shift, except I have learned, as reporters may be in the room, I'm speaking in background because radical does not play well with the public. We are building incrementally on what people are doing in a very productive way. In 6th through 12th grade, what percentage would you imagine typical college and career people read literature and informational text? It's a pretty heavy balance, you might imagine, towards informational text. However, standards don't exist for reading in history and science. One state said to me, I thought it was comedy, they were serious, we don't learn science by reading, we learn it by experimenting. I thought that was great. Practicing scientists read 80% of their time. So what the core standards try to do in a radical way is continue to regard, and we have wonderful standards for literature, but we also demand reading simultaneously in science and history. The other thing we found in the core standards, and just to tell you these specifics, is that the complexity of text that kids read, and it's in Appendix A, now public, has gradually over the last 30 years radically declined. So kids are reading stuff, and they're being called ready, and it's like way lower than what they got to read in college. That's kind of like a setup, right? You tell me to read this, to tell me to read something this complex, the bar is here, I'm screwed, right? NAEP scores have leveled out at 8th grade for 40 years, right? Because the texts we are demanding of students are not an adequate level of complexity. The standards for the first time, and they're alone in this in the country, create a staircase of text complexity. We define a grade in part by the level of text complexity a student can master, and that is measured annually. That is, I don't think this is about changing high school measures. This is about building from the ground up the measures that are predictive. And then, crucially, they should be tested. So as my biggest fear, states are going to set cut points for now play the assessment game. And of course, as we now measure these standards that have been so carefully aligned with college and career, we should look very carefully at the actual outcomes. And are students performing on measures in accordance with this, what's really happening to them? So we welcome the data, we welcome the evidence. We need your help. We had a great day yesterday launching these standards, but you know what this world is like. Adults have a great capacity, we just said, to ignore information staring them in the face. The pleasure of retaining one's own state system and the vanities of it in the face of something common that could allow comparability. Not everyone wants light. Not everyone wants clarity. So I ask you as we work together on this to please raise your voice that there should be things in common, and those things should be demonstrably tied to what kids actually need to do as they reach college and career.